terrible. I hate them. I hate them.
Well, good morning, everybody. We were sitting here looking at some emails and didn't realise the time had passed. It is 7:15. This is Gulf Harbour Radio, ZMH286, Patricia and David. And we actually have a decent morning this morning. I thought it was clear skies, but I think it's very high overcast, but it's a little bit darkish at the moment to see. But it's very calm. 12 degrees, so I'm not going outside to check it out. 1 knot from the west to southwest. So I think that's cloud, isn't it? Very high cloud. Anyway, we'll soon find out. 1014.2 and rising. Hope you had a very good weekend, everybody. We certainly had a very peaceful one here. Well, I did anyway. So it wasn't too bad a day yesterday. It was a bit sporty on Saturday. Good for people out on the water if they were windsurfers or kiters or whatever. Yesterday was absolutely flat calm. Could have been summer except for the temperature. Okay, I'm not sure what the conditions are like for radio today because I didn't hear any whistles or anything like that. So I'll just see if we are being heard. Could I have a report from, say, Fiji, please? Well, this is not looking good. Anybody from Tonga? Anybody at all, could you let me know that we are actually getting out? Otherwise, we'll sit here and have another cup of coffee. Thank you, Margie. At least we are heard from way up there in Wallace. Wonderful picture of the, what is it? The leopard ray, I think. The leopard ray, that beautiful spotted ray. Have to put that one on the gallery. It looks absolutely spectacular. Looks like you guys are having a very good time snorkeling up there in Wallace. Certainly you're making the most of it, and it looks like the weather has a bit improved. All right, well, at least we know we're getting out to one listener, so we're going to continue here. I will give you a bit of an update on the news, and then hopefully there will be a few folk call in to tell us that we are in fact being heard before I switch it over to David. There has been quite a lot of excitement in the weekend. Iran seized a British-flagged oil tanker in the Gulf. Actually, they attempted 2 ships to overtake, but they left the second one. But it has been diffused a little bit because they maintain that this seizure was due to a collision with an Iranian fishing boat. How serious that was and how deliberate that was has not been commented on, but at least it's meaning that people try and get a diplomatic solution for all of this. This happened on Friday, not long after we had talked to you. Of course, it is a bit of a problem in the UK at the moment. The UK is a little bit rudderless. Theresa May only has a day or two left. They have not made the final decision between Boris Johnson and Jeremy Hunt. That will likely go Boris's way, but that's a day or so away. So it is a good time for people like Iran government to do something like this. The Straits of Hormuz are at flashpoint, and it's going to be a very difficult one to solve. There are 23 crew on the Stena Impero. They got surrounded by boats, and then a half a dozen masked, black uniformed guys came down from a helicopter and took it over, and it is now at the Bandar Abbas port, and they have not been able to make contact with any of the crew. The US has increased air patrols, so we are just sort of standing by really to know what's going to go on in the Middle East. Concurrently with all of this, the US has decided to send fighter aircraft, air defense missiles, and more than 500 troops to a Saudi airbase that they left over 10 years ago. They left it in 2003. It was a very big base, a hub really for American air power in the 1990s. So this is a very significant move. and it certainly adds depth to the ability to defend the area because American weaponry, ships, etc., are quite vulnerable around there. So this will be quite useful. But of course, it's politically very complicated because of the Khashoggi murder by the Saudis a month or two ago. So America is not really meant to be all that cozy with the Saudis at the moment. But boy, when things like this happen, you have to take what you can get. All right. Interestingly, there was an article in the paper on the weekend about cliodynamics. Now, you've probably not heard this word before, cliodynamics. This is the discipline which plots historical events using mathematical equations. Very complicated. This has produced a map of history where you see spikes of global fiery situations roughly every 50 years. And we happen to be smack dab in the middle of one such spike right now. So, of course, this cliodynamics is also used to look ahead. But anyway, we are in the middle of this spike at the moment, so we should not be surprised that there is going to be a fairly major to-do in the Middle East. I am sure all the airlines, particularly Emirates, who have absolutely invested in their hub in Dubai, are going to be doing lots of computer runs as to where they're going to route people to get around that, including yours truly, yes, in about 9 days' time. All right, to go from the sublime to the ridiculous. I mean, this is one of those only in America tales, and this comes from Berkeley, North California.
Excuse
just across
me, that's
Berkeley. All right, Berkeley, San Francisco, California. They have decided, and this is really serious, that you cannot use gender-specific words anymore, and they've made a ruling. So, for example, a manhole is now a maintenance hole. Manpower is now, depending on the context, human effort or workforce. This is true. And those folk that were in sororities or fraternities at university, they're now going to be called Collegiate Greek System Residences. Can you imagine that actually getting through? Collegiate Greek System Residences.
Are people actually paid to come up with this?
Yeah. I mean, here's the world about to sort of fall apart, and that's what they're working on.
That's berserkly.
That's berserkly. Okay. Well, of course, the papers have been full of a lot of space stuff because of the 50-year anniversary where men arrived at the moon and actually got back again. Many of the people around at the moment, including many of you, and including our Peter Beck, who's the founder of Rocket Labs, weren't even born at the time, which means that there are a surprising number of skeptics in the world, and certainly in New Zealand, as to whether this moonwalk did actually take place or whether it was something dreamed up by Hollywood. Evidently, about 9%, that's pretty high, isn't it? 9% of New Zealanders think it was faked. Now, the main reason of this skepticism is sort of twofold, or threefold. One was the lack of follow-up, and the second was the fact that, and people know this, that there is more computing power in your smartphones now than there was at Houston Control at the time. Absolutely astounding. But this was 50 years ago. So there you have it. And I know 50 years ago, if I wanted to use a computer, I had to queue up at the university with my boxes of cards and go in at midnight when it wasn't so busy. But there you have it, more computing power in your smartphone than they had on board the Apollo 2 rockets. So the other thing was as well that young folk these days don't really think that there was enough brain power then. And they certainly don't think they've got the brain power now to achieve this. But
that's probably true.
That's probably true. But anyway, it was a very interesting article that covered how many people were involved in the Apollo program. And at its peak, there were 400,000 people. And they required support from more than 20,000 industrial companies and in universities, and they were all working to that common goal. It's amazing, and obviously that couldn't be continued because it was just too much cost and too much people involved. And the people at Houston Control, by the way, had an average age of about 26. It's funny, when you look at the pictures from there, it doesn't look like that, but the average age of the mission controllers was 26. And interestingly enough, Peter Beck, who runs this rocket lab where the launches are here in New Zealand, the average age of those doing that is in the 20s. So it's absolutely not any different. But anyway, we think that there hasn't been any follow-up, but there has. It's not as exciting, I guess, as landing on the moon. But last year, 2018, there were more than 100 orbital rocket launches globally, with hundreds of satellites deployed. And some of these are very significant for you guys. They are involved in looking at water temperatures and currents and all the little sensors that are around the world looking at various things. So there is a lot of activity going on, but it's now more based on actually doing something for mankind, earning a buck, as it were. So these range in size from things that are just tiny, the size of a smartphone, up to some fairly significant looking bits that are floating around space. So there is in fact a lot of activity going on, but it's now more commercial than it is political. What have we got now? Oh, the big news over the weekend, and I have tried to get this out to many of you WinLink users. Very serious actually, for if you are a WinLink user, and particularly if you are a US licensed ham radio person, you will be affected by the new rules that are being adhered to by WinLink now. The FCC is really criticising WinLink for not enforcing the third-party rules. So they are now starting to enforce third-party rules, which means that anybody with a US license cannot contact a station that in a country that does not have a third-party agreement with the USA, and that includes New Zealand. Australia is okay, but not New Zealand. So those of you who are enjoying connecting to ZL1 SEA, for example, will probably find that you are no longer able to do this. I thought that it only affected US licensed people, but I have heard that there's no third-party agreements with any country in Europe either. So it means that some of you folk with European licenses will also have some problems. Now, why you would have a problem with a New Zealand station, I don't know at this stage. We're all trying to work hard on it, but we have got a lot of problems with this at the moment. I've been working for a couple of months on the fact that New Zealand, we call it the NZART, but it's controlled by Radio Spectrum Management. They have decided that a US general is not the equivalent of our license here, and that to operate on 20 metres or 40 metres, you need to have an extra license, which of course is absolute nonsense. But boy, it's a really tough, slow-going slog to try and get any communication with this particular government department, because the manager changed, and his idea of not causing any ruckus is to basically not do anything. So it is all very difficult at the moment. So if you do have problems, you'll just have to work through it for a while, but we are on the job. Certainly Nigel, who runs the ZL1 SEA and ZL2 SEA stations, is actively trying to get some sense in the situation as well. Okay, let's move on quickly here. For those of you interested in sport, the Silver Ferns actually won the World Cup. They had some magnificent games, first with England, 47-45, and finally with Australia, 52-51, an absolute stunning game. And back to serious stuff, the British Airways and Lufthansa have both suspended flights to Cairo in Egypt for unspecified security reasons. Not much more on that one, but it's unspecified. and there will be no flights from British Airways for a week. Okay, just quickly looking at streaming. I won't actually have time to get back to see if you're being heard. We're being heard out there. Just hope that we are. Where we are, Suva, thank you. Citrus Tart, it's good in Suva. Thank you very much. Well, at least we know that. And local talent in Hog Harbour, they're listening on the web, but no use on the single sideband. And we're coming through at Muscat. Thank you, Jeff. Just streaming through here now. Havana, looks like it's a nice day there. Clear skies, 1013.5. And southeast wind. Muscat, it's 10 to 15, 21, 1011.5. I think that's what Mezzaluna said. They'd had a pretty sporty weekend, but now dropped to 5 knots from the east. 23 degrees. That's not all that warm yet, is it? 1011. And sail mode, yes, well, that's interesting. I emailed all this stuff off to Jim Cornman, and that is a commercial use, so that will not be affected. That's my take on this at the moment. It will not be affected. And here we have, I love these folk on non-stop, Peter and Alan. They go in the opposite direction. They are leaving Salvi today to head to Tonga. So there you are. All right, we are now just past the bewitching hour where I'm going to pass the microphone, and hopefully David can be heard.
Yeah, me too. All right. Good morning. And you may remember Friday, the big fat high to the east helped spawn that depression on its northwest side. Well, that high is still with us, 1038 central pressure, but it has relocated slightly, a wee bit south, roughly 50 south and 170 west. Now the depression has wound up very nicely. Started out being just a little guy, and now it is rather significant. 987 millibar, 987. And it's located, the center of it is located near 30 and 170 west, 30 and 170. Now in the Tasman, the Oz high, where it has moved, it's gone from southeast Australia to into the Tasman. It's about 1025 millibar, and we'll call the center of it about 160 east, right around 160 east. Now it's ridging northeast with the axis of the ridge. Well, it's more or less aiming for Fiji. Now by tomorrow, around lunchtime, back to the big fat high. It's not big and fat anymore. But it will have intensified to 1040 millibar. It's getting a little bit smaller in area, but it's made up for that by becoming a little bit more intense. Not moving much, nearly stationary. Now, our subtropical depression, that moves slightly east to about 165 west. So, yeah, hasn't moved a whole lot, but just a wee bit, 5 degrees, 300 miles. Yeah, I suppose that's about an average speed of movement, that sort of thing. And by Wednesday, our ex-BFH, if you will, springs a slight leak. So it's gone from very, very intense to still very strong. 1036 millibar is the estimate. But it doesn't look like it will have moved very much at all, according to the frogs. So for the most part, we could call it stationary. Now, our ridge, this is the Oz, we'll call it the Oz ridge. It's taken over the cruising routes for the most part. But a trough does intrude on the south side of the ridge. And that means it's going to take over the central Tasman, or the area of the Tasman between New Zealand in Australia, so that will be cyclonic flow in that area. Now, for those of you that are departing New Zealand today, and there are a few, the week looks okay, but by Saturday, a trough looks to affect Tonga. Most of the destinations, by the way, of these yachts are Tonga, from what we've been able to gather. But the trough itself is going to affect again Tonga and also Fiji as well. So there we go again with some more activity up there. Now, those underway, a stop in Minerva, that was a question. That may be appropriate, depending upon the severity of the trough and whether or not it's really going to be there on Saturday, which would be roughly the arrival time for those that are leaving today. So, whether you stop at Minerva because of that or just because you want to, we'll cover that as the week rolls on. Now, you will encounter some cross seas on the run line as you're heading north. We've got essentially a southerly swell that's going to be combined or colliding is a better word with a southeast swell or east-southeast swell. We're looking at about 3.5 meters. Some of them may be higher, looking at maybe 4 meters. It eases as you get north later in the week. So it's going to be the first part of the week as you're closer to New Zealand than you are to Tonga is when you'll notice the effects of this cross swell, if you will. So anyway, over to Wallace this morning. It looks partly cloudy on satellite imagery, and I think that was the report as well. There'll be a chance of showers today. The winds, for the most part, southwest, shifting to the south a little bit later today. Not very strong, 5 to 10 knots like that. That's a mean wind, could be stronger with downflow from cloud. Possibly rain tomorrow. Winds south-southeast around 15 and pretty much the same on Wednesday. Now the actual winds early this morning at high FIFO, I like that word, that was, well, they were variable. Then there was another report about 2 knots, so hardly anything. So no discernible direction there. Over to Tonga, where our trough has had its way, as you all know, for a while there in Tonga, but it has lifted north. But cloud, though, on its south side, still affects the group. So you can expect cloud and scattered showers today because of that. And as Tonga is also under the influence of the pressure gradient from the distant high to the south, the winds are going to be fresh. Tonga Met has issued a strong wind warning and a small craft advisory for the main group. South to southwest winds 15 to 20, rising 25 to 30. And moderate to rough seas about 2.5 to 3 meters, and a southwest swell on top of that about 2 to 3 meters. Now tomorrow, they expect south to southwest winds 10 to 15, rising to 20 at times. And I'll give you a few actuals this morning. Vavau, south-southwest, 4 knots, scattered to broken, 1,008 on the barometer. Apais, west 10, scattered to broken, towering cumulus about, and barometer 1008. Tongatapu, west at 14, scattered, and 1008 for the bar. Now, to Fiji. Imagery shows the group under the bottom of the active trough, similar to Tonga. The main effect of the troughing at the moment is Rotuma, and actually Platuna is involved in this as well as it heads track southeast. So anyway, for Fiji, you could expect partly cloudy conditions, isolated to scattered showers. Not Rotuma though. Anybody there in Rotuma, rain, thunderstorms, not a fun place to be. But for the group, the main group, winds today, mostly southerly 15 to 20. Tomorrow, south-southeast, also about 15 to 20. And looking at the radar loop shows scattered showers. There's a few areas that stand out on the loop. The Muscat Cove area, a little bit south of Muscat Cove, getting quite a few returns. Nassori, definite returns. Vanua Levu, the northern part and eastern part for sure, and Taveuni, areas of Taveuni are showing some pretty good returns. Now, a few key actuals, the METARs this morning, Nandi, southeast at 5, scattered, barometer 1011, Savu Savu, oh, that's an old one, I'll give it to you anyway, late yesterday, southeast 10, rain, barometer 1009, what it is now, I don't know because they're not telling us. Nassori, that's current, south-southwest at 5, scattered, barometer 1011. For Nassori, or basically the main business port, if you will, just to the north, Suva. On to Vanuatu now, where imagery shows a bit of broken cloud. The main trough still resides over the Solomons, extends southeast, the southern edge over the Santa Cruz Islands, and as I said, on to Rotuma and so forth. But northern Vanuatu is still getting some cloud. But this cloud moving southward is from the trough that I just mentioned, but there's other cloud. And that cloud is moving northward. So if you were lying on your back on deck, just thinking about things, you can see the different directions that we've got with the cloud cover. And the cloud that's moving northward, that's basically due to instability on the equatorward edge of the Oz Ridge that's trying to poke its way onto the group. Now by lunch, the winds generally southeast 15 to 20, and the good news appears to be a little bit lighter air tomorrow, still southeast, but I would say about 10 to 15. And some actuals this morning, Sola, southeast 13, broken, bar 10, 11. Santos, southeast 9, scattered to broken, 10, 12. Tana, south-southeast 5, broken as well, and 10, 14 on the barometer. And way down there, Venetium, south at 10, scattered 10, 15 on the barometer. And finally, for New Caledonia, fair amount of cloud on the periphery of the Oz Ridge, just like Vanuatu. Bands of low cloud, you can see, quite obvious. You could expect them throughout the morning. So by lunchtime, our lagoon area, south-southeast, 5 to 15 knots, fairly big band in there. By afternoon, should be about a steady 15. Things tend to stabilize this afternoon. Tomorrow, expect some showers, variable to southeast winds. And I would say in the 10 knot range, so not a great deal of wind, but could get wet. The outer reef this morning reports 15 knots, southeast to south-southeast. Yoel-Dapan reports south 8, and Noumea reports northeast 7. So that's it for the big picture and little pictures. Any questions? Well, we won't hear you, but here's the chief.
Well, I've been catching up on things coming in, and it looks like, we've got Cetacea and Valak at Vianney Bay. Doesn't look very pleasant there. It certainly hasn't been over the weekend, and currently about in the 11 or 12 to almost 20 mark from the south, just not very comfortable with 100% cloud cover. Pretty warm though, 29.5 degrees. Wow, but the same at Wallace. And I have to say, Worcester seem to be really, really enjoying Wallace. It looks absolutely lovely. They've got some pictures on their Yit report if you want to have a look at Wallace, but it certainly sounds as if it's a good spot to visit. And we never got to Wallace or Futuna for that matter. Currently it's 3 knots northwest, 20% cloud cover, 1008.9. Okay, not much more from me. Is there anybody out there who wants anything? Please call now. Oh, it's very, very quiet. We've got Mr. Troy still up there at Patakula Bay. Good morning to the crew. Diego's very quiet since he's got the 2 ladies on board now, which is a good idea to be very quiet when you've got two female crew, isn't it? I mean, you would hardly get a word in anyway. 24 degrees there, 15 knots south-southeastern showers. Boy, doesn't sound very wonderful. I'm just looking at the satellite picture. Oh yes, it doesn't look all that great, but it does actually look pretty good at the bottom of Fiji, so you guys should actually have a bit of an improvement. All right, well, if there is nothing more from anybody, we'll leave you to your day, and we will be back here tomorrow. And it is clear skies here, by the way, now that it's light enough to see that it's not high cirrus. It is a beautiful, clear day with pretty much no wind here, 12 degrees. Boy, I guess that's pretty cool. Cheers, everybody. The frequency's all yours. Oh, you're back again, Alan. Good morning to you. And I take it you are around the top of Newcastle somewhere, over? Okay, you're moving your way down the coast. I think it's probably going to be good enough to get a position if you've got your gizmo on. Go ahead, over. Okay, didn't get much of that. It's quite scratchy from up where you are, so I haven't heard from Andrew this morning either. So we'll just take it that all is well on board. Give me a roger, roger. Okay, thank you for that. Yeah, it's interesting when you key the microphone, it's actually quite noisy, so I'm not sure where you are there, but somewhere in the north of New Caledonia. Does anybody copy Quintessa well? Please come back to me.
He's on the east side, isn't he?
Yeah, not very good with you either, and I'm assuming that he's sort of on the east side, but we would like to know. We're having a look here.
Tuho actual conditions.
Yeah.
South-southeast 10.
Looks like south-southeast 10 if he's where we think he is, but just give a brief description, Alan, on where exactly in the north you are. Go ahead. Lagoon, I think it sounds like Provence, doesn't it?
Something like that.
Something like that, but anyway. All right, we'll just have to assume it's something like that. Did anyone copy the description of the lagoon that he's in? No. So we'll try again, Alan. Just give us the. We'll start at the top of New Caledonia. Is it on the east side or the west side? Over. No, too many words. All right, we'll try again when things improve. Cheers, Alan. Have a good day. We are clear. Goodness. It's interesting.